Two principles require that we stop welcoming undocumented immigrants, otherwise known as illegal aliens: respect for the rule of law and respect for facts on the ground. The ongoing violation of our immigration laws has reversed the traditional roles in a sovereign nation. It is now people living outside our border who determine our immigration policy, not Americans. The facts that result from this constant violation are these: a significant portion of the children of illegal Mexicans and Central Americans are adopting an underclass culture, as anyone can verify for himself by looking at social statistics or spending time in heavily Hispanic schools. Until we figure out how to prevent this from happening, our unrestricted immigration flows guarantee social problems for years into the future. Now, on paper, our elected representatives continue to make our immigration rules. In reality, however, the power to determine who comes into the country and on what conditions, the most basic attribute of sovereignty, has passed from Congress to the world at large. A net 500,000 aliens enter the country illegally each year. Once inside, they have enjoyed virtual immunity from any risk of penalties, as well as receiving a host of taxpayer benefits. Such immunity is now considered an entitlement. Any hint of enforcement, no matter how limited, inevitably provokes a massive outcry from immigrant advocates and immigrants themselves that the government is behaving unfairly and indeed unlawfully. Disapproving headlines will blare from newspapers across the country, quote, "Fear among immigrants spreads," unquote. Mexican consul generals will complain bitterly that the government is psychologically abusing their countrymen by causing them to worry about their status. It seems that not only do illegal aliens have the right to live here without being deported, they also have the right to live here without thinking that they face even a minimum risk of being deported. This sense of entitlement does a great injustice to the thousands of law-abiding foreigners who are patiently waiting to enter the country legally, and it makes a mockery of our laws. I would like to ask our esteemed opposing team if they think that anyone should ever be deported for coming into the country illegally, or whether they believe that once across the border, he should be home free. Now, you may hear from Mr. Griswold tonight that our immigration laws are economically unwise. I and my colleagues vehemently disagree. But even if it were the case that controlling the border was bad economic policy, the sanctity of the law does not rest on whether it meets someone's idea of optimal economic efficiency. Until the American people decide to change the law, it should be respected and enforced. You may also hear tonight that we have tried immigration enforcement and that it has failed, and therefore that we have no choice other than to allow the present inflood to continue. In fact, until a few months ago, there has been almost no immigration enforcement in the interior of the country. In 2004, a mere 3 firms were issued fine notices for employing illegal aliens out of the hundreds of thousands of such law-breaking employers across the country. To be sure, the country has progressively put more agents on the border. But once an illegal alien got across the border, he entered a 3 million square mile sanctuary zone. This means that mass deportation is not required to revive the effectiveness of our immigration laws. The illegal population has burgeoned precisely because illegals assume they face absolutely no risk of enforcement, as the complaints about psychologically harassing illegal aliens with de minimis enforcement show. Increase that risk even slightly, and calculations change. After 9/11, the Department of Homeland Security deported 1,500 illegal Pakistanis living in New York, leading 15,000 more to leave on their own. A modest increase in enforcement would result in a similar reduction over time of the broader illegal alien population. The second principle supporting tonight's motion is respect for facts on the ground. Those facts show that unrestrained illegal immigration is producing an underclass culture among many children of Hispanic illegal aliens. Talk to students in any heavily Latino school, and you'll hear something like this, told to me by an undocumented Guatemalan girl in Los Angeles. Quote, "Most of the students I hung out with when I started school have dropped out. Others got kicked out or got into drugs. 5 graduated and 4 homegirls got pregnant." This testimony is perfectly representative. Hispanics now have the highest teen pregnancy rate in the country. Moreover, 50% of Hispanic children are born out of wedlock, a rate 2 times that of whites and 3 times that of Asians. The stigma against unmarried child rearing among teens has virtually disappeared. Hispanics have the highest school dropout rate in the country, 50%. And gang life is sucking in large numbers of Latino youth. The incarceration rate of Mexican Americans jumps 8-fold between the first and second generation, resulting in an incarceration rate 3.5 times that of whites. Gang counselors in schools from Washington, D.C. to San Diego despair at the fact that younger and younger kids are joining gangs. To be sure, most Hispanic immigrants are industrious strivers who seize every opportunity available to them. But as long as many of the children are assimilating into the underclass and adopting its values, maintaining the current high levels of illegal entry will bring in its wake rising welfare and crime. In conclusion, we should continue to welcome legal immigrants who have respected American law from the moment they entered the country and in the way they entered it. But it is an insult to them to accord the same privileges to so-called undocumented immigrants who have chosen to flout the law. And it is not in the country's self-interest to do so. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Heather McDonald.